All right, so every time I go to the fries on Southern and Rural, it reminds me of one of the worst times in my life. And I've had a lot of very bad times in my life. But at this location was where I was pushing shopping carts for 11 months, nearly every day, a thankless, miserable job. And it makes me frown each time I look at those parking spots. The version of me that still haunts that parking lot never imagined that he'd have a car or an apartment or anything. At that time, I was barely scraping by, and my coworkers were too. The only difference between now and the year 2008 is that a lot of the people that I used to work with still work there. Some of the cashiers, people working in the plant department, and people working in the produce department, all still trapped there. And when I ask them why they don't leave, they say to me they don't know where they would go. They have no real form of education. They have no ambition. They have no goals. I knew that the second I started working there that I wanted to get out, and everyone around me knew that I wanted to get out too. This was a temporary holding pin for a person that needed a plan to escape. But my fellow workers didn't feel that way. This was it for them. And even though I felt trapped at the bottom of every job I've ever had in my entire life, it's not permanent like it is for them. They don't even think about escaping. And that's something that really bothers me about the proletariat is that they don't even think about leaving the corral. Someone may open the pen to let them out, but they don't know how to live outside of the confines of a corporate job that's never going to promote them. And so when I saw the comment yesterday for what made me think about creating this, it reminded me of all of the entry level forever jobs that I've had and most of you have had. You don't go to these places for opportunity, you go there for the safety of poverty. All right, let's get into our opening monologue. You ever notice how Walmart calls their jobs pathways to opportunity, but somehow the only path you're on is from the cart corral to the break room vending machine? They tell you it's a career ladder, but really it's more like a hamster wheel with a name tag. You're not climbing, you're sweating in place while corporate brags about promoting from within. And the only thing moving up is their stock price, not you. When I worked at Walmart, every 3 months you had to meet with the general manager about your career at Walmart. They wanted to know that you were still a team player. And that conversation with me and the general manager never went well because I'd have to say the generic thing. Oh, I see myself working at the corporate office. And he would say the exact same thing to you. Because even he had to tell you that he had dreams of working in the corporate office like it was some sort of palace or the ivory tower of some sort, and that we were all heading that way. But the reality of things on the ground was there were I was the only person who was left by the time that store went out of business. I was the only person that would last longer than a few months because everyone else had the ability to quit. I did not. I had nowhere to go, and times were tough after graduation for me. And a lot of people that I know are still trying to figure out how they're going to get any job. Every person that I've had working for me since I started working at McDonald's has gotten the feeling right away that this isn't a good job. And they're always looking for other jobs. Always. Non-stop. Nearly every week I hear about a job application, a job interview. But they're always trying to get out. And the simple reason is if your work consumes more than 80% of your income, you're in a bad position. And anyone that's not living at home is in that position right now. Like I said, the Epic Economist posted a video on Sunday where he talked about someone who sent him in a letter saying that they've applied to over 900 jobs. And let me give you guys this pro tip. And I know I've mentioned this before, but when you apply on Indeed's website, those automatic forms that claim to send them directly to the employers, remember this: Indeed isn't free. That's why they spend so much time putting those resumes through applicant tracking software. Because every time that Indeed submits a job, your job application, to a company, that company has to pay Indeed in order to get your resume. Meaning, it behooves them to be extremely selective on what they're going to pay Indeed for. So if your resume doesn't nearly precisely match that job description, you can keep putting in resumes for the rest of your life and they're not going to go anywhere. Simple reason: if you have to pay for your garbage, you're not going to pay for it. So only the most perfect resumes the companies are going to pay Indeed for. Remember that the next time you submit a generic resume to any company, once money gets involved, and I didn't know this until yesterday because I never had really thought that far ahead, other than I've submitted hundreds and spent years looking for work and had no idea that this was the deal. But you have to wonder, Indeed has to make money in order to stay open too. And if their reputation is terrible about what data they're providing to these companies that are paying them, they only want to see the top level candidates. They only want to pay for those people. And so when you look at it like that, your chances of getting a resume into Indeed and then getting you a job is very small. And if you look through the jobs on Indeed, they're basically the exact same jobs year after year after year. Low end hourly paid jobs that pay 16 bucks an hour, regardless of what you do. Again, regardless of what you do, the pay is the same. Whether you're janitor, you're help desk, whether you're stocking shelves or cleaning floors or have one hand in a toilet and another hand working on a server, it doesn't really matter. Labor, wages for labor have been stagnant for years. I mean, like I've told you guys 1,000 times on this channel, what I currently make is what the guys were making 20 years ago. And that was considered good money 20 years ago, not today. All right, let's move on to talking point number one. Walmart loves dangling that fake carrot in front of you. Stick around, work hard, and you could end up in corporate. Yeah, sure. And maybe I'll win the lottery while riding a unicorn to my minimum wage job. They don't build ladders, they build treadmills. So you run in place until your knees give out. And that is so true. For a lot of people, they show up at jobs and they aren't going anywhere. The only place that you're going is out when they open up the trap door underneath you because they don't feel like your loyalty is good enough. Last week, apparently, at one of the McDonald's in another state, they fired a person wearing that goofy uniform. And on his way out, this, I don't, I don't even know what to call him, this patriot pulled the fire alarm as a last middle finger to his employer. And I thought that was hilarious because the week before that, you had proles that didn't know whether or not they should escape from a place that was potentially dangerous. Every time I hear about the proletariat behaving badly, you wonder, this is the pool that they have to choose from. There's no secondary pool with higher quality proles. When they're hiring, they have to hire from this batch. And it was actually something one of my friends told me yesterday when I called her. She's like, sometimes we don't get the best, MillennialSteam. Sometimes we just get whatever they throw at us. And that's why they always leave. She said that to me as a long-term McDonald's worker. I was kind of actually shocked to hear it. And for her, because she is so loyal to the corporation, but at the same time, she's also a person that lives in deep And I'm talking deep fear every single day that she comes to Pound Town that today's her last day. And she's not alone. She's worked there for 8 years and she still lives in constant fear. In fact, when they had the return to work, so that everyone had to come stand at the fry later, she was one of the very few people that I knew that was actually shaking in her boots. And I had another call yesterday with one of my other friends, and she still doesn't understand when her husband is going to go back to work, even though she's terribly ill and doesn't know how much long she has for this life. She spends a lot of her regular days in the hospital, um, at the Grim Reaper's door. I mean, when I talk to her, that it feels like day to day that she might be gone, and she understands that. And she doesn't want to leave her children without parents. But at the same time, her health, she'll never recuperate from her health problems. They're permanent. So constant hospital visits are going to be the way that she's going to have to spend her life, and in constant agonizing pain. So to add to that pain, her husband's now been unemployed for 4 months. And when you tell certain people in society, same coworker, she's like, they're hiring everywhere, is what she told me yesterday when I told her the story of my other friend whose husband can't find a job. She's like, how is he unemployed for that long? And I'm like, there are people out there who have been looking for jobs for years. And regardless of what job they take, they know that there's not going to be any long term stability in any job within our society that's at the bottom. Anyhow, let's get into talking point number two. Here's the real joke: some college kid with a cousin in HR can waltz into an air conditioned office while the guy who's been breaking his back in the lot for decades never even gets a shot. It's not about skill. It's not about dedication. It's about who you know. And if you don't know the right people, congratulations, you're sentenced to life in the cart corral. And this is very true, something I've said on this channel for more than a decade. If you don't find yourself growing up in a world in which you have access to people with money, chances are you're going to stay with the people who don't have money for the rest of your life. Because for some reason, money follows money and poverty follows poverty. Sure, there are the outliers that will break out and get to a better place. And this is something that Mello tells me all the time whenever we're eating or whenever we're hanging out or we're doing something. She's like, MillennialSteam, you are the exception. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you came from nothing and now look at you. And I'm just like, Mello, I'm still poor. And she says to me, I'm still poor too, but we made it. And I'm like, no, we haven't made it anywhere. You don't want to work as much as I don't want to work. I want a life of leisure, of easiness, of not having to get up early to go and bust your hump making French fries and working the drive through. You want better than that. You want your life to have some sort of meaning. You want to go out there and be able to help people, help the homeless, save the whales, stop global warming. You want to have a life that has some sort of meaning. You don't want to get old working in front of the fry later, just like Mello and I. Every day we clock in, we make fresh potatoes into French fries, and at the end of the day, when they toss out all of the burnt French fries, that's us. That's Mello and I working our 8 to 5 jobs, and it's never going to get any better. Because in the time that I've known Mello, which is 16 years now, she's always worked a McDonald's job. Always had a name tag, a goofy hat, and a faded polo with Susie written on it. Susie Rottencrotch right on her chest. And we're all Susie Rottencrotch. At the end of the day, no one really cares what your name is because it doesn't matter. You're fried, you're done, and tomorrow you'll show up because you need money for food. It's the only reason you'll show up again tomorrow. All right, let's close this out. At the end of the day, Walmart doesn't sell careers. They sell cages dressed up as opportunities. They keep you circling the lot, chasing promotions that were never meant for you. while the connected few leapfrog straight into the office. That's the corporate lie. Loyalty isn't rewarded, it's exploited. So the real question is, are you going to keep running in their hamster wheel or finally call out that the wheel isn't broken, it was built this way? And then it says mic drop. I don't know why ChatGPT likes to do that so much. Like a lot of the scripts that it writes for me, it has this. It actually has it in bold letters at the end. Mic drop. Like you said something profound. That's not what I come here to do. I come here to inform you, the worker, the proletarian, the people that don't have lives or careers or leisure. I come here because you guys are still out there. Because you guys are out there still stuck in the mud. And if we form a chain together in the mud, maybe we can pull ourselves out. But as long as we think that we're not poor and that something is going to get better, your toxic positivity isn't going to save you.